My favorite of all the Souls games? That's not a good question because they're if you radar charted all the Souls games, they'd spike in all sorts of different directions depending on the game. Like Dark Souls 2 had the highest viability of interesting PvP or PvE builds. It had probably one of the higher ranges of viable PvP builds. Dark Souls 2 has the worst netcode in the entire game, the entire series. Um, the multiplayer ecosystem was up and down. Like, like I would say, multiplayer ecosystem is probably best. Probably in terms of like how each covenant plays into each other. Probably Dark Souls 1. Dark Souls 3 probably has the worst. The damage formula is best in Dark Souls 3, but sorcery starting damage is the worst in Dark Souls 3. I would say the PvE so far, with the exception of Elden Ring, the PvE so far for everything prior to Elden Ring, I would say Dark Souls 2 is my favorite for the most part. Even though they have like an area that ties for Lost Izalith, like I like the idea behind Frigid Outskirts. I don't like the implementation. Dark Souls 2 has the worst damage formula in the entire series. You know, it depends on what aspect you're trying to rate. Picking a single favorite's just too hard. It doesn't make any sense. Every game has something great and something terrible. Oh, the entire thing goes up. That's cool. I would say there's two things I think Elden Ring is not showing me that I want so far. One is spell buff scales so slowly that I can't tell if sorceries are especially good or not, and upgrade materials are very hard to find. I would say all other fronts, Elden Ring probably has things I like the most, but I haven't touched the multiplayer at all, so I'm not super sure about that. Only in the network test, where I saw a lot of stuff, but I haven't got a chance to put it to practice or really digest it yet. Is that a reasonable answer? I don't know. I don't want to pick a single favorite for things because, you know... Ooh. Picking favorites that encompass the entirety of the game is just not thorough enough for me. Is this like the highest point? Seems like one of the highest points in the entire game so far, height-wise. Yeah, I'm really close to the top of the Erdtree. And each of them is a thing I can fight. I think story-wise, besides Elden Ring, I'm not really factoring Elden Ring into this yet because I haven't finished it. Like Elden Ring has a lot of stuff story-wise that I think is, oh, there's another Evergeo. Oh my god. Elden Ring has a lot of stuff that I think they give you a lot more to work with at the start. It seems more robust. You don't have to squeeze like blood from stone to get story out of it. But prior to Elden Ring, I think Dark Souls 2 probably had my overall favorite because it's my favorite for the same reasons that people hate it, is that it explores kind of two things. One is like hopelessness and desire, and the other thing, especially, is I would say two things. One is the hopelessness and desire part mixes into what happens if you give up in your goals, which is a little bit separate from how Dark Souls 1 approaches it. I like the Dark Souls 2 way of presenting it better, where Dark Souls 1 presents it as closer to it, analogous to dementia, where Dark Souls 2 presents it as closer to depression. And I like that aspect of it more. Like, so in Dark Souls 2, it's more like your goals don't matter anymore, and that's why you hollow. In Dark Souls 1, it's more like you fail and you're unable to achieve them, and then you go hollow. Even though they're pretty close. The second part of it, though, is that I feel like they spend a lot of time basically presenting. Oh man, they're so aggressive with like hiding everything. The moment you turn around, I think they start getting rid of it. I mean, view frustrums, yes, but I mean like even like almost unloading it. Man, you can see like I think it's Ray Lucario over there. It is. That's view distance right there. I'm looking at this. The second thing is that for Dark Souls 2 that I liked more, in Dark Souls 1, your characters are sort of like chosen ones and potential champions, and everyone's special in some way. And in Dark Souls 2, a lot of the characters are more like commoners and people who've been thrust into this and don't necessarily have grand aspirations, but you know, it's like shit sucks and we need to make something of it. And you know, more like down-to-earth stories. Do I keep hitting select to close the map and getting the help pop-up? Nope. But I like very much how Dark Souls 2 doesn't like give you the whole big fucking grand spiel of like, you're chosen this and that and gotta do some glorious shit, and you know, they don't build you up so much. Because I feel like that's almost closer to what Dark Souls is anyways. It's more like everything sucks and you're nobody and you gotta fucking make it work. Golden Lineage ever jail. This seems like a big deal. Beware Monarch. So King or Butterfly also. I bet I can't even activate this without a key. Or can I? Oh, they're imps. Okay. So going back to what I said, I'm gonna take a look because I'm curious. Going back to what I said, I think I like Dark Souls 2 story the most. I think Dark Souls 3 is probably my least favorite because it's so fucking apathetic and like a lot of it is like, hey, it's Dark Souls again, and the rest of it is it's like fuck the whole thing, you know. It feels so defeatist, like they've given up on it before it's even started. Hello? Oh, alright, what? Godfroy the Grafted, what? And it's Godric? It's like a Godric equivalent character. I'm against the wall here. Godfrey. Is this a joke? I mean, it's interesting that it's giving me another shot at this boss. Considering Dark Souls 2 was a botch game. Well, there's like a couple different things that happened. It wasn't just the fact that they put Shibuya in charge, and he had try to make something else entirely. But no, like, I personally, like, I think taking that response to it, Dallin, is ridiculous, because I'm gonna lose this fight so hard. Taking that response to it is ridiculous, and I'll explain why. Because every game is put together, regardless of whether or not it's Elden Ring, or whether it's Dark Souls 2, or Dark Souls 3, or Dark Souls 1, or whatever. They're all put together from whatever pieces you ended up with, and as much as you think everything's a big complete package, and they had an idea for the start, and that's what you ended up with, the thought that that's a thing that happens in games is complete fucking bullshit. Every game is a conglomeration of the road leading to its release. Dark Souls 2 may have an incredibly ridiculous development cycle with, like, Shibuya doing shit that gets canned, Tanamura having to come in and bring it together, having the release date brought up, having it targeting basically the current instead of next-gen consoles. They brought all that stuff in. Like, a bunch of shit changed Dark Souls 2's development, but, like, what we have is what they decided they wanted to put out, and what they decided to be part of Dark Souls' story. So if you're, like, having this big, like, oh, that's bullshit, you can't derive all that from what they gave you, it's like, yes, you can, because A, it's technically canon, and B, it's the story that they said, hey, we're doing this. And you have to remember as well, like, the Dark Souls series was bought and paid for as a trilogy, and they knew this is what they were going to have going forward. And rather than saying we need to delay this, rather than putting out some sort of statement, rather than releasing some addendum or clarifying the canon or whatever, like, that's what they have. That's the story that's out. And regardless of whether or not you consider that to still be part of Dark Souls canon at all, which I think it technically is, because they've basically decided it is, like, what they have is the message they put out. It's like, it's pretty cut and dry, and even if it wasn't, there's no way I'm going to fight this boss. I'm not going to bother with him right now. Even if it wasn't canon, it's perfectly valid to get something out of art that you get by looking at it. And it's like, personally, I don't think I'm changing the message at all. I'm reading what's there. But other people are going to look at it differently. But having some, like, taken aback, these enemies again. Are they fighting? Having some message and being taken aback by it is a little bit absurd. Talking about drawing that out from the mess and the lore the game was? I'm not drawing it out. That's what they present. This isn't one of those fucking, like, this isn't doing some sort of VOD deep dive. This is like this is like the surface shit that they put. Like, why do you think you hit fucking Vendrick? Why the fuck do you hit Vendrick and he's presented the way he is? Like, the story is, like, fully written out right in front of you. Well, Nero, before the release of Dark Souls 2, there were things like, what was it? Lucatiel was meant to be initially, Don Quixote and stuff. Like, there was a lot of stuff that was dramatically different, in what was presented, but, like, you've got to remember, all the Souls games have this fucking winding path to getting whatever they have. And I think they had basically picked the key points that they could deliver, but that's part of the canon. That's intended. I thought this would be a bigger cave. Does this lead to something else? It wasn't the network test. It wasn't even playtest stuff. This was stuff, like, really early on, but, like, probably, I would say, halfway into the development of the game. Ooh. There's gonna be chests here. But Dallin, like, trying to basically say that because they had to settle on something, we didn't get something that they decided upon is surprisingly ridiculous. And the other thing that people keep saying, and they say they respect for games, is like, oh, so much cool shit happens like under duress and under deadlines and under limitation drives creativity and all this other shit. And then people in the same breath go, oh, this is they totally wasted their resources, or they flubbed what they did. Not everybody's gonna like the story, but it's what it is. That's what they decided upon with like the resources that they had. Can I target your... Oh, you know what? Weird if we got only the initial vision of the game. Yeah, you rarely ever get what they initially started with for anything. What do you think Elden Ring was before George R. R. Martin came along? What do you think Elden Ring was halfway through development? It wasn't going to be this. It's extremely rare for like what you end up with at the very end at release to be like some initial vision or whatever. Fan daggers. Throwable. Throw fanned out knives. Oh shit, yeah, this is S-Dex, I see. I don't know, Dale. I mean, maybe, like, if you're not extremely familiar with how game development tends to work, maybe that's a little bit more shocking that that AI would accept what Dark Souls 2 was released with as official canon and intentional. But that's how these things work. What you've seen is a more expanded version of Dark Souls 3? Based... Well, what are you saying that I think Dark Souls 2 is Elden Ring's canon? Because I don't think I said that. What are you deriving here from what I'm saying? Because if I take what you initially said at face value, then I think maybe that's not what you meant. Because that seems completely separate from what we were just talking about. Oh, this place gets bright. I mean, it makes sense it gets bright, but damn, this place gets bright. This place is probably bright even in at nighttime. Mechanically, I think this is closest to a follow-up of Dark Souls 3 in terms of the tuning, and Dark Souls 2 in terms of the variety, if that's what you're trying to say. You think you've seen a reprised Souls weapon? Well, if you wanted to be super reductionist about it, you could say things like, the game still has crossbows, and still has staves, and has a spell that's... The spells are significantly different. There hasn't really been a great one-to-one spell. There's been stuff that's close. Like, Carrion Slicer, but it doesn't behave quite the same. Even things like Glint Blade works differently. The weapon art version of that has massive poise break. But there's still some like daggers and stuff, and what you could say that's different about them. Yeah, everything with the lock-on feature. Dallin, I think I'm struggling to understand what you said, because I read what you're saying, and you're saying that trying to take the Dark Souls 2 canon as... Well, let's try to understand what you were saying, because you seem to have taken offense to me basically saying what Dark Souls 2 presented as a release game cannot be taken as Souls canon, and cannot be taken as Dark Souls 2 story. So what are you trying to get me to say here? What do you mean? Because I think I don't get it. Because okay, so regardless of whether or not it's Dark Souls canon, because I don't give a shit about canon at all, I really don't care. I want to play a video game, I like whatever the story is. Because, like, Dark Souls story, really, like, you could just as easily take it like individual Final Fantasy games, where they're sort of semi in the same multiverse, but not really. Whatever the message was, whatever game this is, oh, this one has a shit ton of HP. I just called the horse. You're in awe by Inside of Dark Souls 2? But, like, is it really that wrong, though? Because they, like, the way the story is presented is, like, even down to things like basically Vendrick effectively giving up and losing, like, basically having a scenario that he knows there's no great way out of it, and rather than fighting it and losing, he just says, fuck it. This is hopeless. And they even the way stuff is worded, like the Shrine of Want and stuff, it's like the Throne of Want, I mean, it's spelled out for you, like, everywhere. You know, all, like, what is the name of the crafting, it's been a while, I can't remember the names of everybody at this point. The merchant for crafting materials. Like, she literally, like, all of her dialogue is basically like, I'm trying to find my way, I'm settling down, I'm technically a commoner nobody. You know, these aren't heroes. This is not like what Dark Souls 1 had. And that's what I liked. It doesn't have to... Are you saying that it's like it's mandatory for me to like or dislike something? Because if you... It's either that, or you're saying that interpretation is wrong. This spell's so good for getting behind shields, it's ridiculous. Ooh, that's a cool spell. Chloanne, yeah. I think. Ooh, that's a whole lot of stuff. Sacrificial twig. Looks like a talisman. Well, for Dark Souls 2, that might be a 2014 brain, depending on how long you kept playing. We lost in death. Oh, we finally have a, at least one. Bring a sacrifice. Haven't touched Dark Souls 2 stuff since 2012 or 2013, so the story's kind of fading in memory. Okay, well then that Dallin, like, you might have... If the story didn't matter to you, then you might not remember the parts that spelled out the stuff that I think is cool. And the stuff that I liked most out of the set of Dark Souls 1 to 3. The same way that like everybody gushes about the story from Bloodborne, but I completely fucking hated the gameplay because there was nothing to appreciate at barely 25 FPS. And personally, I think it's terribly tuned numbers-wise. How did I play Dark Souls 2 2 years early? Dark Souls 2 came out in 2014. Dark Souls 3 came out in 2016. Maybe, considering time is totally fucked up in the pandemic, maybe everybody's forgetting how long everything was. You're asking Dallin. Oh. Well, I think we're both in the same boat. I think we're both in the same boat. Everybody is struggling to remember when shit was released because of the fucking pandemic, and time sucks for everybody. You ducked. But yeah, like, so to reiterate what I'm saying, like, that was weird. To reiterate what I was saying, there's no deep dive you have to do to get what the game came out with, story-wise. Regardless of whether or not you think that it's intended or not, or canon or whatever. Everybody keeps complaining about the enemy arrangement for Scholar, but if you look at it piece by piece relative to Dark Souls 2's original release, everything for a new player was smoothed out a lot. Troll's Golden Sword. Especially things like where they place all of the fragrant branches. All the locations there, they do things like force you away from rune sentinels and stuff, so that people don't have the big fucking giant early game difficulty jump. I think a lot of people judge Dark Souls 2 poorly gameplay-wise, because they released Dark Souls 1 and wanted to function exactly the same, which it didn't, which is a bit of a letdown. I think there are certain things that could have been tuned better with like how animations worked and stuff. All of the complaints about things like grab hitboxes are bullshit, because Dark Souls 1 and 3 have terrible situations as well. So like all that shit is just goofiness because they're looking for stuff to complain about. Given to the giants who fought for the air tree during the war against the giants long ago. The giants have lost their minds. They stay inseparable from their swords that are in sad shape, such that the gold plating has flaked away. Trolls roar, look into the distance, and let out an intense roar, generating a powerful shockwave that blows back surrounding foes. Follow up with a strong attack to slam the armament down. Well, not just Bed of Chaos, but like, if you're looking for bad grabs, look at freaking Iron Golem. Horrendous hitbox of that shit. Sucks you in. Same thing with Dancer in Dark Souls 3. But there's plenty of cases like that. Remember how completely ridiculously awkward like every AoE explosion was? In Dark Souls 1 especially? And how they even tweaked the graphics in Remastered, not just to make them higher res, but to have clear edges and stuff around stuff like Four Kings' explosion. Like, and that's why, like, when early on, when Haruki had asked what my favorite Souls game was, why would I pick a single favorite? Because they all have giant things that they totally mess up, and they all have things that they do really well. Yeah, Great Wood's got a massive lingering hitbox on the grab as well. Like, yeah, and the landing from all of the butt stomps or ground pounds or whatever. Morning, Sin. Bloodborne had the best ratio of good or bad. The performance was so bad that it got in the way of everything. Great Shield Talisman. Bloodborne had a lot of issues, like the way that they relied on the sort of... I think the name of the curve is a logit or logit curve. It's like the reverse of a sigmoid curve. And I'm not talking about 1.0. I'm talking about 25 FPS as your like cap most of the game performance-wise. Not the load times, which were tolerable. Like, I could live... I mean, you spend a lot of time waiting in a Souls game anyways for PvP, so like a 45-second wait time isn't the worst thing in the world, or a minute and a half, or whatever it was. But Dark Souls 1, 3, and Bloodborne, for flat defense at the very least, absorption in Dark Souls 3 is different. They use a very similar curve, and has a sharp cutoff basically at either end, where if you're too low attack to defense, then you lose a ton of damage. If you're really, really high attack to defense, you start gaining a lot up to a certain point where you just can't get anymore. And the other issue with Bloodborne that combines with how defense is calculated is that I'm still looking for items as I go. I swear there was another one, yeah. You can only get blood gems. You can only get the 27% physical blood gems in Chalice dungeons. And Chalice dungeons were horrendously shit. A lot of other stuff, like how Stagger works, and how Quicksilver works, and like everything, like lots of stuff in terms... I guess I got both. Lots of stuff for how damage works and how multiplayer works totally sucked in Bloodborne. Like, if you wanted to summon somebody, or if you wanted to invade, like, there were very few Bell Maidens in the entirety of the game, and they were very easy to kill. And as far as summoning is concerned, you had to ring your bell and wait. Your sign moved as you moved in your world, right? And when you're ringing the bell, you had to be next to somebody at the time when you rung. On top of the fact that they used Dark Souls 1's IP pool bullshit for the connectivity, so you would just never get anybody. You'd never get any multiplayer in that game. So, like, even in Bloodborne, there's a giant stack of things that are terrible. The regain system, the rally system, I should say, is extremely unforgiving, especially with the frame rate of that game. The visuals in Bloodborne had really bad silhouetting. They had the same sort of issue mechanically, gameplay-wise, that people complained about Sundered with, but people were willing to put up with it because it was a Souls game. Where, like, it's difficult to read where the fuck anything is, where to go, to read the shape of the level you're in. Like, just any given screenshot is often basically, it's two colors. It's slightly blue-tinged gray, and slightly red-tinged gray, and that's about it. There's very little else from that. You do good damage. Well, Bloodborne's Invader may have had a heavy Invader favor to it just because of things like areas, like some of the best places to invade had respawning enemies, and damage was so high, and you could heal very easily and stuff like that. Speaking of healing, another thing that Bloodborne was extremely frustrating with. The freaking blood vials. Why the fuck did they go back to the grass system from Demon Souls? Shit like that was awful. I will say this though, like if Bloodborne could sustain a frame rate, if it could sustain a frame rate at all, I need to go here. then I might have given it another chance, and maybe I would have liked it more. But like, going back to talking about the story between the games and what I'm getting out of them. I was so put off by the gameplay in Bloodborne and the performance of Bloodborne that I didn't give a shit about the story. And the stuff that stuck out to me was stuff like you walk up to Ebrietas, and Ebrietas is facing away. Oh, I need that. So Ebrietas is facing away, and as you enter the room, it's like, clearly this is a boss fight, okay. And the first thing you see is a silhouette that looks very much like Cthulhu. And I was really hoping for that one-to-one direct payoff of like, oh my god, this is like, not only does it hint at Eldritch shit, but it just literally is. Instead, you're looking at the back of it, and it turns around, it's this big, stupid-looking monster that just doesn't have the, like, you have to remember, like, creature design, even if it's supposed to be an alien thing, the psychology of what makes them work, that makes them opposing or scary or whatever, is that they have to draw on some primal image that you have in your head as a human. You know, instinctual shit, like fear of serpents and spiders and demons, and you don't need to necessarily make it one, but what was good about the design of Cthulhu is that it's certainly not a real creature in the world, but it draws upon things that are scary for people in real life. And it uses them to create something that is a strange alien creature that is imposing and has a certain emotional response to it. And Ebrietas doesn't. It's just a big fucking blob monster with eyes and shit. And then, after that disappointment with Ebrietas, Ebrietas has ridiculous instant, one-shot kill charges. And literally has, like, if you check out Zully the Witch, she has a video of it. Ooh, I want that. I need to get down there now. There's footage and a breakdown showing that literally the hitboxes are bugged. I think it's a Zully video, I'm not too sure. Somebody had a video of it. Zully might have just mentioned it. Oh, yeah, okay. But yeah, having the broken hitbox for Ebrietas that just wing clips you because apparently that particular part of the model was not flagged correctly. That just made that, like, I was already in the middle of disappointment with Ebrietas' the design, like the visual design, and then the boss fight itself was just terrible. And that was where I broke my rule and said, I'm going to summon people for this boss fight. Have they fixed a lot of those issues in the DLC? I don't know, but I also didn't have my interest for Bloodborne didn't pass the base game, let alone the DLC. So they lost me at that point. And to be fair, that's kind of one of the responsibilities games have of, like, you need to do a good job of selling people at the beginning, because if they don't like it, they're not going back. Why the fuck are they going to come back unless a laundry list of shit that they want to be fixed is fixed, and they liked everything else. Not to interrupt me, but I wanted to mention that you went to sleep last night. You got into 45. Your spell buff is about 202. It's what the spells for. Oh, okay, that's good to know. That's actually really excellent. I'm glad. Like, interjecting is like that is totally fine. That's good to know. Is it 202 on the staff itself? Because then your effective spell buff, depending on what talisman you find, is going to be more. And your physic as well.
You, please, I can read them. Your fingers, please, your fingers. Oh, bless you. To the east, ruins of gold. the serpent's sacrilege. Wherever the path leads, so shall you follow. Wherever the path leads, only more sorrow. 'Tis a curse. A curse. The curse of Queen Marika. You're
I want to hear this again.
to the east.
East, ruins of gold.
Ruins of gold.
West, serpent.
To the west. The serpent. Wherever
Okay,
the
I got it.
path leads.
We're good. Oh, it's the whole. It's the whole smorgasbord. It's literally a portal out, a set of grace, and immersion. Starting one is just not getting anything. Yeah. Yeah, there's like a breakpoint, isn't it? Like 36 or 40 ints is where you start breaking.
Yeah, mate. Hey, terribly sorry. Are you here as a customer?
I think it's something like that in Dark Souls 1, where the sorcerer staff starts getting outclassed by the by Logan's staff. Something like that. I know Izalith picks up too. I think Izalith had similar scaling to the to the base one though. Gravelstone. I don't think I want to craft anything I can throw away like that. Oh, you can just flat out free buy lightning bolts. Tree surcoat. It's another 100. Imp shades. Ancient Dragon Apostles Cookbook 2. I don't have the first one yet. Lightning and Roach Lightning Pot. I'm gonna buy the Stone Sword keys so I don't forget.
I must apologise. I'm afraid I've very little to offer.
Kid me. Oops. Notes sold by a nomadic merchant imparting knowledge in brief. Nothing can touch the shades of imps in the hero's graveyard. Only Rosu's light can give them form. Some assassins cannot be seen with the naked eye. Since it seems the Erd Tree sentries once carried torches that could cast light on these prowlers. Good to know. I have not. I would love to find some sort of special staff that's good. What I have is just not satisfactory. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to use all of the runes I have and level up as much as I can because I'm just... There's no reason to sit on these. I'm going to hold on to that remembrance, but I'm probably going to use it at some point. Because it's like, oh, let me just sell them. Let me just sell them.
Oh, is there anything wrong?
Draw is raised guiding the way, only without any sense of order. Use with last resort for those who have lost their way, for use by those who believe that unrefined guidance will lead to truer encounters. Oh, so you literally... This is, there's a spell in Dark Souls 2 called Guidance that I think it's something like it goes to the nearest enemy, but it doesn't work on invaders. Or no, I think it might work on invaders. I don't think it works as an invader. I think that's what it was. $34 so far. I think there's a spell I can cast. I think, or I might need 36. Let's see. Yeah. It's 34. I need one more. That's faith. 38. Yeah. There's an item down. Oh! Hey, wait a second. I know what this is. Wow, it's this far in the game? It's this late in the game? Does anybody else besides me recognize where this place is? Because I recognize it now. I think some shit's been moved around a bit. But I recognize this. This was in the gameplay preview. I'm not even sure. I don't know if I can survive this. Golden arrows. Carved arrows made in tandem with the Ur Tree bow. Deals holy damage. Highly effective against those who live in death. Yeah. Did it say craftable? No. It's not known to be craftable yet. Whoops, ah. It's already at it. Yeah, it's bloodstains there. Ah, bloodstains are so broken. Wasn't that a thing in Dark Souls 3? One of the games had that as well, like a launch period. Where... Oh, it's these things. Oh, they're not that strong. I wonder if they do great damage or something. They seem to be able to jump very well, though. Oh, death blighted. Got stuck on the horse. I couldn't grab the I couldn't land on the cart. I wanted to get up. That sucks. Conceptually very funny. Is it because of the grammar doesn't make any sense? These guys can move. Oh, but yeah, because it's like Curse. It's like Curse with less steps. Well, Curse also has extra things it does. Oh, so the other Sentinel ship might be around here too, depending on whether they moved him or not. The Sentinel with presumably arcane damage. You know what's funny? It's like this horse has been, this horse has been alternating between getting me out of dodge so much and running into shit and just stopping, or like instead of turning like this, instead the horse like does that instead, and I just totally get fucked by it. Spike comes into the ground and just impales you. Wonder if there's meaning behind that, because it is the Rune of Death. Or, like, apparently the Rune of Death was stolen and it fucked up how death works. I'm mostly going towards the light. I don't know if that's a good idea or not. It's funny, I'm thinking about the prior mention of Bloodborne, and like, I do wish that, like, two things happened. I wish I'd get a PS5 at some point, and I wish it ran at 60 on PS5. I won't play it at 30. Or a PC port would be fine too. Ah, crap. I didn't realize my stamina was taking that long to regenerate. I would give Bloodborne another try, even though I loathed it. My experience with it was so bad. It's one of those things where I'm like curious what everybody liked about it, because my experience sucked. A lot of other people are way more tolerant of bad frame rates and gritty looking visuals than I am. Too noisy. That was okay. So another thing, actually, people complain about this for Elden Ring, but it's not as big a deal in Elden Ring. Chromatic aberration, because early uses of chromatic aberration in games is literally what dynamic lighting got in Quake 2, which is a fucking crappy light show that makes the game look worse. Yeah, I don't have a modded PS4, and you would need a PS4 Pro anyways. And I don't even have the dev kit that that I was using at work anyways, nor would I even be allowed to do that. They would be really upset if I tried. Work from home changed how dev kits are handled at a lot of studios. Because of Microsoft's policy, usually developers are more easily able to work from home with dev kits for Xbox, because you could basically, you could swap your, like the majority of the work could be done to swap your kit to be your regular Xbox to be a dev kit. I'm not going back to the office saying, hey, I want to play modded Bloodborne. Could I grab one of the PS4 kits? And, I don't even know I don't know personally whether or not they have pro kits or regular kits anyways. Maybe they probably do. They have multiple Xbox kits. I think they just get whatever is available at the time. I don't, this is the first AAA studio I worked at, so I don't have any clue like what the rules are for like how people get dev kits. I'd imagine when you're requesting kits from Sony or Microsoft, it's probably something like they want you to try to target the most recent thing, which would have been PS4 Pro at the time, or you know, Xbox. Next one. Xbox Triple S Series W special sauce with sprinkles on top. Hold the lettuce, because that would upset us. I recognize that sound. You use the same sound from Dark Souls 3. And maybe Bloodborne. Actually, one's a little different. There's a couple similar sounds. Think you can buy one from them because they're moving to PS5? Well, random developers at studios typically aren't the people who make requests for kits. I can't call up Microsoft to say, "Hey, I work at this place." I can't say, "Hey, I work at this place, and I would like a kit, please. One kit, please. Here's 3." I feel like the Zoidberg. One art, please. No, that doesn't work like that. There's processes you have to go through, and they're typically, like, there's usually a point of contact, or, you know, it would have to have been, you know, like a lead, or, you know, somebody in charge of... Well, the studio, yeah, can request things, for sure. But it's like, in terms of whether or not I can request them, what's this? I cannot. Could this be an Elden Ring? Sure. Just a little wreath there. But I can't say, "Hey, lead or studio director or production staff or whatever, hey, get me, I would like this particular development kit. Don't ask any questions. I just want it." You know, let me have the key. Let me have the kit, please. Especially if, like, I want to bring this home. Why? Because I want to play Bloodborne at a frame rate that's acceptable? Request denied. The studio, honestly, the funny thing about game dev is that they probably are like, I see what, but no. See what you did there.